Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to look at a 6.5mm cartridge that gets overlooked. And in a lot of instances, people don't even realize is available or an option. So in today's video, we're going to look at a cartridge that kind of sits in between these cartridges. So on my left is the 6.5 Creedmoor, kind of the standard, the most popular 6.5 cartridge. And then in the middle, you can bump up to the short Magnum, which is what the 6.5 PRC basically is. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have our Hyper Magnum 26 nozzler. In today's video, we're going to look at the 6.5 284 Norma. And performance-wise, it is right in between the Creedmoor and the PRC. The 6.5 284 Norma was actually introduced before all three of the cartridges I just showed you. It's not really old, but it's an old one compared to those three. It was introduced in 1999, and the parent case is the 284 Winchester. And the 284 Winchester was kind of a failed cartridge, which was kind of sad because it was extremely ahead of its time. It had great ballistics, but just never took off, unfortunately. But let's talk about the 6.5 284 Norma. So what makes this cartridge so great? Well, it's definitely modernized, like the Creedmoor and the PRC and the 26 nozzler, so it can shoot all those really high BC bullets. The case dimensions are a little bit different than your standard cartridges that we're used to. You know, the standard cartridges are kind of all based off the 308, or if you want to really think about it, the 30-06. Obviously, the case head is going to be the same at .473, but what makes this a little different is that it's a bit wider of a case than your 6.5 Creedmoor, your 308, or your 30-06. And while those cartridges have a diameter of .473, this one is 0.5, so it's half an inch. And then it's also a tad bit longer than a 308 or even a 6.5 Creedmoor, with the 6.5 Creedmoor being a little under 2 inches and a 308 just barely being over 2 inches. This one's 2.170. And then, as I said, this cartridge has definitely been modernized. Check out the max overall cartridge length, 3.228. So as you can see, you can really seat these bullets out pretty far. Looking at a 130 grain bullet, you can hand load this nearly 3,100 feet per second. And then a 140 grain class bullet, let's just go ahead and look down at the, and mid 2,900 feet per second. So on average, it's about 200 feet per second faster than a 6.5 Creedmoor, but still about 100 feet per second slower than a 6.5 PRC. I do want to compare the 6.5 284 Norma to the Creedmoor and the PRC, because the Creedmoor and the PRC are by far kind of the standard for your 6.5 cartridges. So with the Creedmoor, with a 142 grain AccuBond long range and a muzzle velocity of 2,700 feet per second, you're basically getting 2,300 foot-pounds of energy. The recoil, this is what makes the Creedmoor so attractive, is there's almost no recoil to this cartridge. And then the retained energy because of these high BC bullets is also what people love. So as we go out to 400 yards, the bullet's still going 2,155 feet per second and mid 1,400 foot-pounds of energy. And the drops, it's not bad at 30 inches. And so I've always said this is a pretty darn good deer cartridge, and obviously a really good long distance cartridge. Now on to the 6.5 284 Norma. Now you can get, when you hand load it, about 2,900 feet per second with that same bullet, the AccuBond long range. And let's just see the recoil difference. Not a huge difference, but a little bit more recoil. You're going to notice it a little bit more. And then let's just go ahead and see what the performance is for this cartridge. Out to 400 yards, going about 200 feet per second faster than the Creedmoor. And then the energy is about 300 more foot-pounds, almost 300 more foot-pounds. And then it drops about 5 inches less. And so this is a great alternative to the Creedmoor. Now let's see how the 284 Norma, the 6.5 284 Norma, does against the PRC. Now, when you hand load it, some people definitely can get 3100 plus, but I'd say you could at least get mid 3050 feet per second. Energy is 2900 foot-pounds. Your recoil, you're getting up there. So that recoil is the equivalent of kind of like a light 30-06 load and a 270 load. And let's just take this out to 400 yards. And it's going about 100 feet per second faster than the 284 Norma. And the energy, well, it's got it beat by about 200 foot-pounds. And only 3 inches, so it's not a huge difference. But yeah, there definitely is a little bit of advantage for the 6.5 PRC. The natural question to ask is, why get a 6.5 284 Norma? Well, I think it comes down to a few reasons why you would get one over these two cartridges. Well, for one instance, let's say you want something a little bit more powerful than your 6.5 Creedmoor. And as you know right now, 6.5 PRC, well, the ammo is extremely hard to find. So that's one option for you, is to get in between and get a 6.5 284 Norma. Another advantage the 6.5 284 Norma has over the PRC is that it's going to have a bit less recoil. So you're getting a little bit more performance than a Creedmoor with not as much recoil as a PRC. The last reason to get a 6.5 284 Norma is to be unique. Everyone has a Creedmoor or a PRC, and how many people have a 6.5 284 Norma? Not near as many. Now, this cartridge is not so obscure that you wouldn't be able to find ammo. It's definitely still a popular enough cartridge that you're going to be able to find ammo, even during this ammo crisis. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. The 6.5 284 Norma is just a darn good cartridge that is a good alternative to these two.